Hi, Year 3. So, hopefully you are all just making some progress now about looking at poetry, deciding which poem you might want to do for your ESB, or at least giving it some thought. Hopefully you've been having a really good think about what topic you might want to do for your talk, your show and tell. I think it's brilliant. It's so exciting. It's a real shame we're not able to do it as a class altogether at the moment, but you never know, things could change over the next kind of week or so. So keep going, search for your poem. Let me know if you found one or if you want any help with it. This week, we're starting to think about poetry generally in our English lessons, and we're looking at some traditional poetry today. A poem in particular named The Sounds in the Evening by a poet called Eleanor Farjeon. And actually, some of you might look at her poetry. She's quite a famous poet, and she wrote loads and loads of poetry, a lot of it very, very suitable for children, actually. And when we've done ESB in the past, it's amazing how many children end up doing poetry by Eleanor Farjeon for ESB. So maybe one of you will choose one of her poems to do, because they are fantastic. So we are going to listen to a poem that she has written. I'm going to read it to you. And then I've got an activity for you to do where you're exploring her poetry. And actually, I've given you an exercise all to do with parts of speech. So you're looking into adding some description into her poetry. So I'll read it to you first. I'm actually going to put a copy up on the screen whilst I read it to you. So this is her poem, but if you can read it as you go, it's quite nice to see the words. Okay, so this is The Sounds in the Evening by Eleanor Farjeon. The sounds in the evening go all through the house. The click of the clock and the pick of the mouse. The footsteps of people upon the top floor. The skirts of my mother that brush by the door. The crick in the boards and the creak of the chairs. The fluttering murmurs outside on the stairs. The ring of the bell, the arrival of guests. The laugh of my father at one of his jests. The clashing of dishes as dinner goes in, the babble of voices the distance makes thin. The mewing of cats that seem just by my ear, the hooting of owls that can never seem near. The queer little noises that no one explains, till the moon through the slats of my window blind rains. And the world of my eyes and my ears melts like steam as I find my pillow, the world of my dream. So that's a really lovely poem, all about the different sounds this little girl, if it's a little girl, it might be a little boy, I'm not really sure, but this person, it might even be Eleanor Farjeon when she was a little girl, all the different sounds she could hear or he could hear in the evening. So I want you, on Shobi, I've given you a little task just to imagine if you were in bed listening to the sounds you might hear in your house when you're either trying to get to sleep or just lying in bed listening to what's going on around you. That's your first kind of task that I want you to do. The second task is I do want you to print off a copy of the poem if you're able to. If not, you can annotate on Shobi. I think lots of you found out how to do that. When you open the document on Shobi, the pen option comes up. But what I want you to do is highlight the nouns on the actual poem. Now remember, we've done lots of work on parts of speech, and I can hear Freya's voice because Freya's always the one that says a noun is. So for anybody that's unsure, I have put this document up to remind you, because some people, it just doesn't stick in our brains, and that's fine, but it is something we need to go over and revise and remember and practice. But if you're somebody that doesn't remember these things, a definition of a noun, if you can't hear Freya's voice shouting it at you, here we go. A noun is the name of a person, a place, or a thing, or a feeling. Okay, so that's the noun. I put on the definition of an adjective and a preposition because we're going to use all of these parts of speech today. So they're all on Shobi. So what I'd like you to do with your poem that you print off if you're able to, if not, you'll do it on Shobi directly. I want you to highlight any of the nouns. Now, a top tip from me, ooh, that's very shiny, isn't it? Blimey, sorry about that, everyone. It's like not sure what happened there. But something that will help you, a top tip is a noun will often have the word the or a or an article in front of it. Okay, so that might give you a bit of a clue every time you see a noun. That's the first thing. The second task I want you to do, now this sheet is on Showbie. Let me just find it. Here we go. I have written the poem out again, but I have put in some blank lines. And this is where you can choose. You can either do it directly onto the sheet, or you can write this into your English books. It's up to you. Some of you really want to do some handwriting and keep that handwriting looking great, and that's fine. It's not ever so long, actually. It feels like it's his, but they're quite short sentences. What I want you to do is have a look here. Every single time I've got a blank line, you should notice that that is before a noun. And if we go back right all the way back to some of our first English lessons, we were talking about 2A sentences and describe how important it is to describe the noun. Now, this poem works beautifully and wonderfully without adding adjectives. It works fine. But I want us to explore it, and I want us to add suitable adjectives in front of these nouns. So the something sounds in the something evening. Okay, the mysterious sound in the quiet evening. Go all through the dark house. Obviously, you come up with your own. The click of the something clock. What kind of a clock is it? Okay, so that's the lesson for today. I want you to explore this poem by Eleanor Farjeon and put it up onto Showbie. There is extension work, and I want you to see if you can spot any prepositions. Remember, I put that a description of what a preposition is. We've done lots of work about prepositions before. We did some acting out in the classroom, if you remember. Morgan was on top of someone else's bag, and the chair was underneath somebody else, and we had all sorts of different things going on. But a preposition just tells you something about the time, the place, the direction, the position, preposition. So I want you to go through the poem and highlight or underline the whole phrase if there is a preposition. Okay, that's the extension. That's your English for today. I could stop sharing that. You didn't need to have that on the whole time. Sorry about that. So just really get into exploring this poem. It's a really lovely poem. If you like the sound of Eleanor Farjeon, she's done loads of different poetry. Maybe it'll be something you're interested in for ESB. Okay, speak to you soon. Bye.